It's very sophisticated. And I think, just to comment on the problem it's solving, obviously context is very expensive. The larger it gets, as you have these like really long interchanges while you're generating code with the help of a coding agent, you need to figure out what's worth keeping around in terms of that context, like tools you've used, markdown files that tell you how to use X, Y, and Z, whatever it ends up being. You have a very structured way of keeping the things that are important, and importantly, getting rid of the things that you don't want to keep around, that you don't really care about. And I thought that the way that they solved it is, on the one hand, like almost seems overly simplistic, but on the other hand, it is really sophisticated. So they have a 3-tiered memory system. And at the very top, there's stuff that's always loaded, no matter what. And that's things like your Claude.md file. That in its entirety is always in context. There's also a special memory.md file that is internal. So if you go in your .claude file in a project and you go down this nested directory, you'll find that memory.md file, and you can manually inspect it. And it's always going to truncate it at 200 lines. So it's extremely efficient. And that's the piece, or 200 lines or 25 KBs of context, whatever's first hit. And then there are things that are loaded on demand, things that memory file might index into. Like it might reference, here's something important whenever you're making API calls to this very specific service.
So hold on. So the memory file can actually reference things externally that need to be pulled in as a part of the memory.
And then the third layer is this searchable kind of thing, like full session transcripts, every single part of your exchange.
Right.
It can search by keyword and pull things if it needs to. But something that I thought was interesting is, a couple of years ago, you'd imagine, memory, let's just build a RAG system. Let's make a vector database. But I think the important thing that they came to the realization of is Claude needs to update and maintain this thing over time. Things like user preferences that come about during your exchanges, things like that. Things like just unnecessary information that you don't need there. And I think one of the biggest feature leaks that came from this code base leak was that they had this concept of dreaming, where in the evening, basically what it'll do, you can have it run this async job where it'll go look through its memory, it'll do all that work of like deduplication, et cetera. And you almost have this like automatic, it's memory, but it's like a knowledge base that commemorates your entire exchange within the context of a project. And I think that's awesome.
Yeah, and the analogy to dreaming is really strong because you're it's like you sleep, your brain is refining what you experienced during the day, maybe saving core memories, Another thing that I really loved about this was just how human readable it all is, right? It's really just, for the most part,
markdown files.
Just markdown files.